Hello, welcome and Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to a new program on Sangat TV called Encounters. It's going to be hosted by myself, GS Atwal, and we're going to be discussing a range of issues and having encounters with people of interest to ourselves as British Asians living as diaspora in the UK and the wider continent and America, Canada. And we'll be talking to people who could interest us in how we see the environment and the world around us. Today I'm joined by Mr. Jagdeesh Dhillon, who is a political activist, a human rights campaigner, and pretty much very, very involved in both national, international and very personal circumstances for yourself. If I may, by way of introduction, explain that Jagdeesh is the brother of Surjit Kaur Atwal, who was tragically taken from this world in 1998. If I may now just pass over to Jagdeesh and he can explain to us a little bit, if you would, Baji.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me on.
You're welcome.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ka Fateh. We're talking to you, the wider public, Sikh and non-Sikh audience, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
You're welcome.
To share this valuable slot with the wider listening audience about this very important subject area. Many of you will have heard of the name of Surjit Atwal. It was a headline case which splashed across the UK media over the course of the year 2000 to 2007. Yep. In the year 2007, we had a major criminal conviction on this particular case in the Central Criminal Court in central London, and it was major world news in July 2007. What is Surjit Atwal? How did the case begin? Very briefly, Surjit Atwal was my personal sister. She was married into a family where she suffered.
Was she older or younger?
She was a younger, one year younger than me. Yeah. I'm literally 43 as of yesterday.
And happy birthday, belatedly.
And she was actually killed in December '98. So a good over 10 years ago, and at the age of her murder, she was 26, and I was 27 when she was murdered.
Right.
She was 26. The story is the proven story is she was married into a family, as Punjabis marry into each other's families.
Of course. Yeah.
She was settled into a family. However, she suffered.
Was it an arranged marriage?
It was an arranged marriage.
Was she happy for that? Was she happy?
She was not happy. She entered into that because we as parents, our mum and dad, the customary practice way back then, or going back a generation or two, or generation and a half, arranged marriages, in you go, new life, new beginning, and off you are. You know, you're a bird that's flown out of the nest and we've put you in another family. The family in which she lived in subjected her to a misery of 10 years of married life. All violence, psychological abuse, cultural abuse, all sorts of abuse went on. And this was a very concealed story. She suppressed the horrors that were going on in her life for many years. And then 5 years...
Physical torture, mental torture?
It was physical abuse, mental abuse.
Immediately?
Immediately, from day one. But
were you aware of it?
I wasn't aware of it. She courageously kept a lid on it for 5 years into the marriage. And then 5 years into the marriage, it exploded. She'd had enough. She left home. She moved into new accommodation. She let us know. We went down, wanted to assist her, and so forth.
Who was that, yourself?
I went down.
Who did she contact first? Was it yourself?
She contacted me. She contacted me, mum and dad, me.
And did you have to tell your parents?
I told my parents, and we went down.
So yours was the first contact?
Yes.
She spoke to you?
Yeah.
And then, how did that feel? How did you approach your parents?
It was shocking to me. It was shocking to parents. It was difficult. You don't want to be in a situation like that. No. But when you are, you don't want to be sitting back. You want to proactively get involved. Try and see what you can sort out. Try and protect your sister and protect the situation. We went down. We tried to patch up things. Things didn't immediately patch up. Over a course of months, Surjit, together with her...
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Was it just genuinely a case of two individuals bound together by law?
They were locked into a loveless marriage, and a family.
And they both understood that.
Yeah, and she was surrounded by a family that were constantly picking at her, attacking her as a person, taking her money, an oppressive mother-in-law, threatening her with all sorts weird and wonderful Indianistic customs about who should get pregnant first, who should get pregnant afterwards, in terms of the age factors in the family, the age hierarchy in the family.
Yeah.
Should the older brother be pregnant? Older brother's wife be pregnant first? Should it be the younger brother's wife? All of these
arranged pregnancies, almost
stupid, mindless thinking, superstitions, pounding down on her and pounding down on other sister-in-laws in the family as well.
Where was she living?
She was living in Hayes, West London.
Hayes, predominantly Asian,
a Punjabi area, an Asian area, well-known area adjacent to Southall.
Yeah, of course it is.
She carried on through this marriage for the sake of stability, for the sake of protecting family honour, this glorious label we give to ourselves of honour and ijat. She put up with it. She was fed up. She was grudging. She was resistant to the continuing pressures. She'd had enough, but for the sake of pleasing others rather than pleasing herself, she said, I'll give this a second shot.
Service to others.
Yeah. She went back into the marriage, only for that marriage to continue in that same tyrannical way. And the details of what was happening to her, the abuse, the physical abuse, the mental torture, the physical violence, the taunting, the daily taunts, the threats, all this sort of thing.
Physical violence was from her
from the husband. From the husband, there were threats of violence from others as well.
But no physical violence from anyone other than her husband.
It was a husband that was identified as having carried out intermittent acts.
Subsequently, this came out in court as well.
Yeah, it came out in court.
It's fact.
It's fact. It's beyond dispute.
Yeah.
It all came out, spilled out. All the dirty linen came out in court.
Indeed.
And of course, I can't go. I'm not going to spend time going through every little nitty-gritty detail now.
No.
It won't be appropriate. But she wrote some very vivid diaries, and those diaries are worth reading when they get published, we hope, in a year or so.
Are you planning to publish her diaries?
We're planning to do that, planning to write a book, publish her diary, her own handwritten diaries of the daily, weekly, monthly pressures and torment of this marriage, like being abandoned by her husband on the M1, midway on the M1 when she's coming back from Coventry. He literally says to her, get out of the car, get out, off you go on the hard shoulder, I don't want to see you again. Incredible. And she's left there stranded. And she calls, she makes a desperate call to Dad in Coventry, and Dad comes and picks her up. Those are the kind of incidents that were going on. Yeah? And there's many more incidents which will all come out in due course. Incidents about whether you should be aborting. Are you pregnant? Should you be aborting this child? What kind of child is it? Whose child is it? Accusations of adultery and all sorts going on. It's all intermixed into this dirty cauldron of horrific stories and horrific incidents. Her earnings being taken from her constantly and repeatedly. Her husband wasn't in regular work. He wasn't working. And her income being taken from her, not being left to her, but taken from her to feed the rest of the family, and for her to just receive a little basic pocket money every so often.
Right. So she's the breadwinner, basically.
She's the breadwinner. So the kind of degrading, dismissive and oppressive behaviour which many families are familiar with, unfortunately, and in reality, unfortunately, we as Punjabi families, as do other wider South Asian families, we are all too familiar with these kinds of stories, which we ourselves, as much as we will deny it, and as much as we will say, oh, what a horrible story, I wouldn't want that to happen to anyone, we do it ourselves on our incoming members of new families, in-laws, daughters-in-law, and our own mothers and our own parents do it to each other, do it to ourselves. And Surjit's case resulted in Surjit deciding, after 10 years of horrific marriage, that I want out. I'm not putting up with any other excuses anymore. Any idea of patching things up have long gone.
There were no children?
Yes, there were 2 children.
She had two children.
There were two children.
How long into the marriage did she have children?
At the time, 10 years into the marriage when she was killed, there was Pavan, who was then about 9, and then there was a younger child, a younger son,
sibling,
who was at that point barely 9 months old at the time. Sarjeet had decided she wanted a divorce. Her only escape from this horrible, loveless, oppressive marriage was a divorce. The divorce represented a horrifying prospect to this bigger Atwal family, who felt that a divorce would besmirch their name, smear their name. It would open up a huge can of worms for them. It would cause chaos and dishonour in the community to them. And at no cost, as the mother-in-law shouted at me quite directly, under no circumstances.
At yourself?
At me, yeah. मेरे मरे शरीर ते तेरी भैन ने divorce लेना है. As I went to visit my sister.
Over my dead body, basically.
Yeah. मेरे मरे शरीर ते over my dead body will your sister get this divorce?
Get a divorce.
Yeah. And she made that very firm remark to me as a clear slap.
Was this face to face or
face to face to me?
Right.
As she was coming down the stairs, as I went to visit my sister in her home to console, to support her, and to help her through these very critical, difficult times.
Yeah.
As she was in the throes of wanting to start divorce proceedings. I was met with this...
Was that formalised at all? Was there any meeting with a solicitor or anything like that?
There was an attempt to meet a solicitor. A divorce application was about to be commenced, and then smack bang, lo and behold, just before divorce proceedings were about to be formally commenced, mother-in-law very strategically decided, right, let's take Sarjeet out of the UK, take her to Punjab, and simply make her disappear. Problem solved.
Under what pretext?
Pretext, we believe that Sarjeet was enticed to go to Punjab, because I was horrified when I came to learn that Sarjeet is about to leave or had got on the plane.
She had not discussed it with her?
She hadn't discussed it with me. And I was literally, that very...
Well, she thought it was a holiday?
She was told, let's go to Punjab on a 2-week holiday to Punjab. Now, it increasingly emerged through other sources around the family,
yeah.
And including from other witnesses, that it appears that they made a one-to-one deal with Sarjeet and said, look, let's go to Punjab. That will be your final visit to Punjab. You will be able to show your face to the village family back home. You will be able to display yourself as a happy,
Had she been to
wife.
India prior to this?
She'd been to Punjab a number of times prior.
As a married woman?
As a married woman.
Right.
And once you do that final act of superficial normality for us.
This is the agreement.
Yeah. You will come back to the UK and we will let you have your divorce without any fuss.
Right.
Because up to that point they were resisting, denying, rejecting,
so for their own cultural reasons.
Yeah. For their own,
come to a compromise
their own
that allows us to keep face.
Their own fixation with this badge of cultural honour.
Yeah.
This artificial but hugely glorified and hugely paralysing mindset of honour. They were prepared to kill someone.
Would you say she was an honour-killing victim?
Absolutely she was. Absolutely she was.
And in 1998, honour-killing wasn't even a headline.
Yeah. Now, we Sikhs often point the finger at Pakistani मारते अपनी औरतां नूं, मुसलमान मारते अपने औरतां नूं, बच्चियां नूं मारते औरतां नूं मारते, ਅਸੀਂ सिख नहीं मारते, हिंदू मारते होणगे, ਅਸੀਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ नहीं मारते, ਸਾਡੇ गुरु ने सानू बराबरता ਦਿੱਤੀ है, ਸਾਡੇ गुरु ने ਸਾਡੇ गुरु ने ਉਹ, ਸਾਡੇ गुरु ऐदां, ਸਾਡੇ गुरु ਉੱਦਾਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰਾ ऐदां बड़ा ਭੜਕੀਲੇ ਢੰਗ ਨਾਲ ਭਾਸ਼ਣ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ.
But you're going to have to translate that in Punjabi in English for me, please.
We come up with this rhetoric, this defensive rhetoric.
Indeed.
We treat our women equally.
The Sikh religion says equality.
We don't kill our women. We
Gender
love our
equality.
women. We let them even come into the Gurdwara. We let them, go shopping with us. We let them work. It's the Muslims that kill them. Yeah.
We allow them to do role as part of an account board.
It's
not that we allow them. Yeah. The Gurus have allowed them, empowered them.
We allow them to do everything. Yeah. So where's the issue? We don't treat our women with disrespect. We don't treat them unequally. But the Sarjeet's case as many observers said, both within our community, our own Punjabi community, and outside of our community, Sarjeet's case...
Did she marry into a Gursikh family then?
She married into a seemingly Gursikh family.
They were Amritari.
Amritari, Dastartari, they were part of the Akhand Kirtani Jatha,
Right.
they were regular attenders of Gurdwaras, they were regular Kirtan events at their house, and so much more. So all the superficial features
Were there.
of I'm a great Gursikh.
Of seemingly,
Yeah.
a very, very
I'm a
solid
very
family.
good Gursikh.
Yeah.
Yeah? I even wear the stars. I even wear this. The mother wore the star. I even do loads of part. I even do Akhand parts. But I will tell you details which will throw all of that into a spin in a moment.
Did Sarjeet do Amrit as well?
Sarjeet took Amrit at a point.
Right.
But she fell from the Amrit because she was caught up in an environment that was very oppressive, very rigid, and she did not feel comfortable with it. She wasn't allowed to grow as a human being, as a soul.
Right.
She'd got married, been placed in a marriage at the age of 16,
Yeah.
and locked straight into a marriage of 10 years of misery. She can't think straight. She can't think about her life. She can't pursue her aspirations. She's shown
Stunted.
no
The
love from her
development was
husband.
stunted completely, basically.
Completely stunted. Completely paralysed life. And then she's thrust this Sikh banna, you have to take Amrit, you have to do this and you have to do that. Now, Amrit is good if it's given in a positive medicinal manner, in a loving manner. But if it's given in a poisonistic manner, you know, Amrit or whatever you want to call it, it's no good for anyone. There are people that have been forced into becoming Sikhs, or forced into wearing dastara, forced into going to Gurdwaras, forced into taking Amrit, with no purposeful, thoughtful and engaging sense. It's a case, main kita, you've got to do it because you're my child. That is not the way. Guru Nanak did not teach his young boy or his son to be Sikh banna. His children did not become Sikhs like him or Gursikhs like him. Guru Nanak did not resent them. He did not hold that against them. He did not persecute them. He did not punish them. And yet we do it as part of an Indianistic mentality of honour.
Was it forced or coercion?
Forced, same thing.
Gentle
What's the difference?
coercion?
Coercion, forced, whatever you... I've got to meet the family image. I've got
the
to
family
maintain
standards,
the
the
family
standard bearer.
jigsaw. If I'm a missing jigsaw piece in the family,
Yeah.
then you know, I'm
The image
told,
falls apart.
I'm constantly told and reminded, tu parivar nu badnaam karda. You're the bad apple in the family.
Yeah.
You're the missing jigsaw piece out of place. I'm not allowed to be me. I must be something artificial.
Indeed.
Yeah? And even then, when things are artificial, you can be an artificial Sikh, but not a Sikh in substance.
But is that a class thing?
Do you think that's a class thing?
Would you think it is? Would you say Gore do that? If we live in England and we see not so much middle class, because middle class is quite a fudge of people now.
Yeah.
That's sort of financial situation where if you're above a certain band,
Yeah.
you become middle class. But the upper classes, would they accept a child to be the same as a child from a comprehensive school?
Well, in fact,
Like
the
an
upper
Etonian.
Yeah. See, the upper classes, interestingly, they're wrapped up in honour as well.
Because every saying wears a crown.
Yeah,
So they genuinely already feel that they're not the same as the general public.
Yeah,
The general public have certain standards. Our standards need
our
to be
standards are
maintained
cut
at a
above
higher
the
level.
rest. We've got to conform to certain
Yeah.
normalities. In fact, interestingly, as it was revealed recently in a BBC documentary, in the upper classes, the aristocratic
The aristocratic
classes,
yeah.
who own huge multi-million
Estates.
estates,
Yep.
property in the UK.
Indeed.
There is a running practice, and it's still legal, in fact, strangely, that when you're part of the gentry or the aristocracy,
Yep.
lord this or duke
Or
of
baron,
this or
so-
baron of this, and this has come down 14 generations from King Henry VIII and before, that you are bound by law as well as by cultural, upper class cultural
Hereditary
practice.
culture, yeah.
You have to give all of that property, not to the eldest daughter, but to the eldest boy,
Yeah.
right? And a great fuss has been raised by the inequality there. And interviewing many members of this very exclusive gentry classes, they speak of exactly the same honour, tradition, standards, conformity, tight practices, and maintaining face and maintaining honour.
Yeah.
You had Henry VIII, to use him as an iconic example, one of the famous kings of England, who murdered many of his wives, but for the simple reason that they would not produce a boy from him, a boy child for him. So every wife he would marry, as an arranged marriage, as an arranged political marriage even, if they did not bear a boy child, right,
off with their heads.
Off with their heads. You're no good. Get me a new wife, and make sure that she's fertile, and make sure not only is she fertile, but that she will produce me a boy.
To a boy.
Yeah, and he went through a cycle of some 6 wives like that before he actually ended up with a boy at the end, and that is.
Did the boy end up being king?
I'm not.
He had 2 daughters as queens.
I'm not sure of that final detail, but that is wonderfully and weirdly similar to the practices that we practice even now in our homes. You know, this was going back several hundred years, and what I'm trying to do is to link this back to the fact that even in England, you know, as much as honour is tied up with Arabia, Muslims, India, and whatnot, honour and the killing in the name of honour and the tight practices of honour are as much rooted in British history and British practice as they are in our own.
Yeah.
Although now in our current mainstream British society, honour killings and honour practices and honour-based families are all near non-existent, but they do still exist on the fringes of British society, the upper classes of British society. Excuse me. Even the highly contentious episode of Lady Diana and her bizarre death and her questionable death.
Not questionable. They've been inquests and investigations, and they all pretty much conclude that there's no mystery there. It was a car accident.
Well, there's questions on both sides of the fence on that, and
there will always be questions. Conspiracies will never go away. You can never have a investigation that's going to conclude conclusively that this is the situation, and there is no
there's no end solution to such questions. Well, people, let's say, for want of argument, people are throwing up that even her relationships with various male individuals, and obviously that's not the main subject matter for today.
No.
Her relationship with male individuals outside of the British classes was a burning question. For the British
defacement of class.
Yeah, for the British royalty, for the royal establishment, and it posed a very, very embarrassing subject matter.
Well, the honour of the future king's mother.
The honour of the royal family and so forth. So that provides us with a glimpse to this.
Well, if she were to be assassinated, so to speak, that would be a good motivation for it. But we don't know if she was assassinated. All we know is that she's no longer here.
She's no longer here.
Yeah. But your sister's is provable.
Yeah, my sister's case, coming back to my sister's case as an iconic case, Sarjeet was taken away to Punjab on the Indian side.
On the pretext of a holiday.
On the pretext of a 2-week holiday. And during the course of that, all pre-planned from London, from Hayes, from the home, and perfectly in line with that plan, she was actually physically murdered. And the details have now emerged that she was murdered on or around the 15th of December 1998. She was murdered by way of...
When did she leave, sorry?
She left on the 4th of December. December 1998 from Heathrow.
Yep.
And it was on the 15th of December 1998, having attended 2 marriages.
Right.
Having attended and having been photographed and filmed in 2 marriages. Days after those marriages, literally days after those marriages, she was actually physically dead. It has now emerged that she was told to drink a liquid substance in which drugs had been put in, or some kind of paralysing drug had been put into that drink. She drank that innocently and became unconscious. Her body was taken to the River Ravi, or to the boundaries of River Ravi, which runs along the current dividing line between East Punjab on the Indian side and West Punjab on the Pakistan side, and on the boundaries of that river, she was actually physically strangled to physically kill her, finish her off.
So she wasn't, so to speak, killed by the drink.
She wasn't killed by the drink.
That was just to make her unconscious.
That was just to make sure that she was physically unaware, mentally unaware, and physically unable to resist.
Right.
Physically made to drink this substance, which rendered her unconscious in a sleep-like state. Her body was bundled into a 4x4 car, and she was driven off together with a number of male individuals to the banks of the River Ravi. There, the actual physical act of strangulation was carried out. She may have become conscious again. The physical act of strangulation was carried out. Her body was then bundled together in some kind of form, or maybe a garment or something, wrapped together, and the body was then just neatly thrown away at a certain spot in the River Ravi. Now, the persons that we suspect that carried this out, who remained scot-free in Punjab, notably, one of them actually works in that area as a river official. So he was familiar with that territory.
Right.
He had, if you like, he knew the river like the back of his hand.
Yeah.
He knew the spots,
the intricacies of
the
its
intricacies of the river,
Yep.
where to get to, how to get to, the easy bits, the difficult bits, and so forth. Now, the body was thrown into that river, and from that point onwards, the body has never been found. Where it's gone, has it gone down the river? Has it decomposed in the river? Has it been eaten up by the fish, the small and the big fish? Has it gone into the territory of Pakistan through the flow of the river, which many bodies do, as Pakistani authorities constantly inform. Many dead bodies turn up at our end of the river, unidentifiable, unknown, and so forth.
During the height of extrajudicial killings in Punjab, there were many bodies.
Many bodies dumped in rivers conveniently.
They were thrown in the River Ravi.
With no attempt to identify, DNA them, or anything like that. And Sarjeet was unfortunately another victim, both an honour-killing victim and another obscure victim of this mass spree of killings that were going on in Punjab at the time, with police support and police connivance. And just like every other dead victim, who was going to make a loud noise about
police connivance?
The police, the information...
Just the fact that they weren't interested?
The police were not interested, the police made no attempt.
But there wasn't any active connivance, though?
We can't say definitively that they had a direct hand in this.
You suspect it?
Yeah, we suspect it. But what is notable, and when we made attempts, my father went out immediately following her failure to return back to the UK on her scheduled return flight, which remained empty. Yep. Together with her mother-in-law, they were scheduled to return on the 18th of December, having been killed on the 15th.
What was their reason for the fact that she didn't come back?
Well, they're very obscure, offhandish. Oh, we don't know where she went. She left the village of her own accord. She left days earlier, and we believe she went off to Delhi on her own, and she left of her own.
For what? For a new life?
Sometimes the excuses would be she went for a new life. Oh, but we thought she'd returned to the UK. She had booked an earlier flight. We asked them which earlier flight, when, where, which date, which travel agent booked this, which flight was that?
Which flight? We don't know. Where's her passport? Has anyone found her passport? Yeah,
where? You tell us so we can check with that flight. Did she board that flight?
Yep.
Did she return back to London, or did she go off somewhere else? All these obscure details, no responses. Which flight did she book? Which travel agent did she book it from? Because she was scheduled to return with you, the mother-in-law, on the 18th. Flights which had been booked in London, return flights.
On the 18th of December?
Yeah, they went out on the 4th and they were both due to return on the 18th. And she did not come back on that return flight. Mother-in-law returned with an empty seat next to her, which was Sarjeet's seat.
Right.
Now, they came up with a whole...
So they've gone out for 2 weeks.
Yeah, host of excuses.
Weddings.
Oh, but she's phoned her friend Kate at Heathrow Airport. Oh, but she's been spotted with a boyfriend in Bombay. Oh, but this. Oh, but that.
Had she phoned her friend Kate?
They had not, and in fact, this ludicrous lie that she had phoned Kate came out full swing in the trial. The husband admitting...
The trial was at the Old Bailey, wasn't it?
Yeah. The husband admitting, I had made up Kate. There is no Kate. And there was no call to Kate. Yeah? The police, having interviewed thousands of people...
That's extraordinary.
At Heathrow Airport with the name of Kate, could not locate any such Kate. Right. So they kept going back to the husband. Which Kate are you talking about? What is the description of this Kate?
What's the nature of the relationship with Sajid?
Yeah, and this was an entirely horrible and cruel distraction to get the police off his back. She is alive. She hasn't come home, but she is alive. Because she's called her friend Kate.
Yeah.
And she's told Kate, I don't want to come back home because of this, this and that. So it was just an attempt to throw us off track. And this cycle of lies continued. And yet, smack bang at the full hearing, under cross-examination, hands up, he admitted, I totally lied. I wasted police time. I totally lied about Kate. There is no Kate. A lie that he perpetrated for 8 years.
Yeah.
Yes. Then the lies, but she's had plastic surgery. We've spotted her in here.
Sajid's had plastic surgery.
We've spotted her there. We've seen her in the UK. Well, damn it, if you've seen her alive in the UK, why have you not reported it to the police? Let's bring this whole...
Was the police up to this point, where the police were considering her, a missing person?
The police, for a whole year, treated her as a missing person.
Right, even though she was not in the UK.
Even though there was no sign, no phone, no movements, no nothing.
You know your own activities towards finding her?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, it was clear to us, and Dad had predicted that they would kill her. If they've taken her that far to India, then she's not coming back home. And we thought, Dad, you've gone off your rocker. She will get back. They're not that bad.
It's just an argument that's happened.
Yeah, it's an argument. It's a horrible argument. Marriage is broken now, but these guys are not that bad. They won't literally kill her, will they? And then when we discovered on the 18th and the 19th that our sister was not on that plane and she has not returned, then panic set in.
And she's not phoned anybody or anything?
She's not phoned. And I went to do...
Had she phoned you from India at all?
Not at all.
Not even to say she'd got there and everything's all right?
And we asked the husband, give us a phone contact for where she's staying.
Right.
And his response, there's no phone in the village. There's no phone in the house. And we
in
found
1998,
that ludicrous. Yeah, that's ludicrous. That's ludicrous.
In 1998?
This is 1998. I said, well, give us some form of contact whereby we can physically speak to her and verify she's safe and sound. Nothing. He wouldn't give us anything. Anyway, this continuous cycle of lies, cover up, lies, cover up, lies, cover up. It continued to the extent that she's still alive. We've spotted her. Yeah. She's had plastic surgery. So there's no end to their merciless, cruel lies to cover themselves up.
Yep.
But anyway, we continue. We fought this case from December 98 using our skills and our passion on human rights that we'd gained from the Punjabi freedom movement. We kicked into...
So you were an activist anyway?
We were activists already. Dad was an activist, I was an activist alongside Dad. And we went straight into full throttle, letters to MPs, contact with the British police, letters to the Indian Prime Minister, contacting the media.
And what kind of response did they elicit?
Our response from the Indian government was zilch.
Absolutely zilch.
We wouldn't get a response back to our letters.
They didn't even respond to the letters?
We had a response back some 12 months after the original letter.
Right.
Dad went out and tried to contact the local village police in Punjab. Village police response, what do you want us to do about it? Your daughter from the UK, what do you want us to do about it? They were flippant, they were dismissive, they were non-interested. It's also emerged that the individuals who murdered my sister, they are very close and friendly to the local police in their area. As emerged during visits by the British police when they saw them hugging each other and being very pally-pally with each other. Right. So the police were resistant. My dad was given the full run around.
So did you say that the British police went to Punjab?
Yeah.
And they seen the suspects?
They went to the suspects' houses.
And the police as well?
Yeah.
What brought about a police visit from the British police? Was that Metropolitan Police? Is that
From here, Met
Police?
Yeah, from the Met Police. We had to do a lot of groundwork here. I remember a visit I made to Coventry, Stony Stanton Police Station, Coventry being my home, and said, I suspect my sister's been murdered abroad. And they said, we don't deal with those cases, none of our business. I went to Hayes Police Station in London.
West London.
We don't deal with those kinds of cases, never heard of such a case. That's not our case, that's not British jurisdiction. So we went through lots of stops and starts and lots of obstructions.
Right.
Finally managed.
Even as a British citizen,
Even as a British citizen. So she's British. She's not a foreigner.
Right.
She's British. She went from the UK, and we believe the plan to murder her was made here in Hayes, here in the UK.
Yeah.
So surely this is a matter of British crime. No, can't do anything about it. Then after many, many efforts, we managed to make contact with a key unit in the Metropolitan Police, Serious Crime Squad. They picked it up. They started making movement. Even then, there was slowness, delay, lack of understanding. Yeah. The officers in question did not appreciate the nature of the case, never dealt with an honour killing, never dealt with an outsourced murder. Just can't comprehend why somebody would want to kill their wife 5,000 miles away. If you want to kill your wife, you do it here in the UK.
Yeah.
Why would you want to take her 5,000 miles away to do it? Very expensive. These kinds of
Would
comments.
you say a lot's changed now?
Yeah, these kinds of comments were merging from the mouths of British police officers.
Yeah, they just didn't understand the cultural
aspects. They didn't. Had she had an affair? Had your marriage broken down? No, it hadn't. This, that, and the other. Why would you kill someone for the sake of honour? I'd kill my wife if I caught her having sex or having an affair. Yes, I would kill her then, but not for the sake of honour. So British police officers could not appreciate why we Indians, we Punjabis, we South Asians commit honour crimes.
Yeah.
They simply could not appreciate that. Anyway, for years, the case just dragged through the police system. Then, lo and behold, Jill Dando's murder popped up.
Yeah.
And everything was put on hold. My sister's case got shelved. Jill Dando was number one. And the police just threw everything they could at her murder case. My sister's case was left on the back slog for 6 months. Things ticked along.
No, with the Jill Dando murder, even though they threw the kitchen sink at it as well.
Yeah.
The Barry George, he was an innocent man anyway.
Yeah. He was vindicated later.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But denied compensation.
Yeah. Anyway, we dragged on. We engaged the media. We wrote many letters to our MPs, the Hayes MP, Coventry MPs. We got letters and debates underway in Parliament. We got MPs to ask questions directly to the British Prime Minister. What are you doing to raise the case of Surjit Atwal as a British citizen with the Indian government?
Yep.
We hammered and pressed the British government. The British government remained inactive and silent, whereas the British government...
Do you think, I know this sounds like I'm being devil's advocate now, do you think you'd have got the same response if your name was John Smith?
No, we wouldn't. We would have got a positive response, as demonstrated by the cases of Lucy Blackman, killed in 2001 in Japan. The British Prime Minister
himself
met with their family in 2 days of that murder.
Indeed.
Yeah.
There was a Met team out there within a month.
Kirsty Jones from Wales, British Prime Minister, zoomed in. Ian Stillman and Peter Bleach. Peter Bleach was convicted of supplying weapons to terrorists in northeast India. He was caught in India. He was prosecuted under Indian law and sentenced to 25 years imprisonment. Ian Stillman, a chap from Reading, he was a disabled chap and he got caught up in some messy case of drug smuggling. Now I appreciate he was probably innocent, but nonetheless he got caught up, a legal process ensued, he was convicted by an Indian court and convicted and sentenced to 25 years in prison. Yet Jack Straw, on the strength of one single letter to the Foreign Secretary of India, said, we want these two people released. And they were released instantly. I posed these direct questions.
So why was it different for Surjit?
Jack Straw would not meet with me. I said,
eventually he did, didn't he?
He did eventually. Yep. And there's a story behind that. I said, if you can meet the family of Lucy Blackman and you can take up the case of Ian Stillman, what is so different about Surjit Atwal? What is it? Are we not English enough?
Why are we not British enough?
We're not British enough?
Your family's got quite a history with Britain, hasn't
it? My family, like many Sikh families, 3 generations from 1850 right up to 1945, the Second World War, we were fighting for Britain around the world.
First Sikh Infantry.
First Sikh Infantry, First World War, French trenches, Second World War, Burma, Northwest Frontier. We died for your country.
For Britain.
We burned
for our
for
country.
Yeah.
This is my country.
Yeah, our country.
Yeah.
We're deservedly here. We fought and died for this country. We're deservedly here. Yeah. This is our home.
We are British.
Yeah, we've earned the right to be here. I pose these questions to the British government. Your disparity. You're happy to help Ian Stillman, Lucy Blackman, Peter Bleach, who was a convicted terrorist.
Indeed.
You're happy to help him. But my sister, who's an innocent British citizen, an ordinary mother, 26 years old, done nothing wrong in her life. She's been viciously murdered by a two-state outsourced murder plan from the UK to India.
A binational.
Yeah, and yet you simply do not seem to be moving on it. You're not concerned. You don't care. You don't want to know. And the constant blanket excuse we kept getting from the Foreign Office and these ministers, we don't interfere in another country's internal affairs. Yeah? And I said, well, that's not true, because you interfered in Peter Bleach's case. You interfered in Ian Stillman's case, and so many others.
Indeed.
And so we kept campaigning, and finally, after a lot of resistance, we managed to get a meeting with Jack Straw, after 55 MPs demanded that meeting. And
55 MPs?
Yeah.
You managed to lobby 55 MPs?
Got them to sign an early day motion in Parliament demanding that you meet with the brother of Surjit Atwal. Yeah? After his consistent refusal. And then, lo and behold, his own secretary started phoning me, saying, when can I set up a meeting with you and Jack Straw? We met with Jack Straw. He gave us a lot of wonderful promises. I will be on to the Indian Prime Minister in 4 hours, because I've got a phone call with him.
Right.
I will be on to the Foreign Secretary of India tomorrow morning. I've got a phone call with him. And your case, Surjit's case, will be number one on the subject, on the agenda. These promises made in November 93 were never delivered. We were fobbed off with these wonderful
November
promises.
93?
Yeah, November 2003.
2003.
Yeah,
right.
In his plush office in Whitehall.
Yeah.
He made these wonderful promises, sent us away slightly reassured. I waited cautiously to see if he was going to deliver. He never did. He never did. Anyway, we fought on. We met with a wonderful police officer, Clive Driscoll, who also pursued the Stephen Lawrence case successfully recently.
Yep.
He picked up the Surjit's case and he ran with it, and he succeeded. Like all other police officers had failed, he took it to prosecution. And after a 15-week trial, Waheguru Di Kirpanal, they were found guilty. The mother-in-law and the husband.
Did they not plead guilty?
They never pleaded guilty. They
pled not guilty.
They resisted to the point that when they were pronounced guilty, the mother-in-law started shouting at the judge in Punjabi. And the judge said, take her down.
Thinks she's still in Punjab?
Yeah.
It's not
They
real.
are now deservedly in prison, and as the judge said to her, you will die in prison.
What sentences were they?
They were given, each awarded in the region of 22 years, which were then subsequently reduced a few years, but now they're still serving in the region of between 15 to 20 years each. For murder.
For murder?
Yeah. Not just for conspiracy to murder, but actual murder. Because the judge said, pointedly to the jury, you've got to decide, is this conspiracy to murder or murder? You don't actually need to carry out the act of murder. It's enough that you instruct somebody else to carry out the shooting.
Yeah.
I've instructed Mr. Smith over there to shoot Mr. David over there. I'm guilty of that murder. This person is simply carrying out the order. I am guilty of murder.
Yeah, of course.
And they were found guilty of murder on that basis. Because they planned it intimately, they carried it out intimately. The mother-in-law accompanied Surjit on her plane to death, and she made sure Surjit was dead, finished and gone before she actually returned back to the UK. And we went through a massive campaign process, media campaign, BBC, Fergal Keane, Newsnight and everything. And the wonderful feature of all of this is it shows that if you want to pursue a genuine cause, you have to go full throttle, and you have to use political lobbying, and not least combine that with media lobbying. The media, in my opinion, were our biggest friends in all of this. They kept the story alive, they kept it burning, and they kept it moving. And because of that, a lot of MPs joined in, and because of that, we embarrassed the British government. We still now, having brought 2 killers to justice, we've still got to pursue the killers that remain free in Punjab.
The physical, actual killers.
Now that's going to be a colossal struggle, with all the problems and all the threats and all the violence and all the corruption of Punjab. And I've already been warned.
I wish you luck with that.
I've been warned that I could be engaging in a trail of death by going out there and testing the Punjab police and testing those murderers.
So if you will, allow me to invite you back on the show.
Absolutely.
And we'll get an update with that.
Yeah.
Is that going to be ongoing for the rest of...
That's going to be ongoing for the coming year,
to
2 years,
conclusion,
and I will certainly update you on that.
That's absolutely brilliant. It's been absolutely fascinating talking to you.
Well, I wish I could say more. Thank you for this very privileged opportunity.
Thank you.
I hope that we've shared something valuable with the wider audience, something you can take away, and something that we can reflect on in our personal lives and in our family lives. Because
Indeed.
Surjit's case was a very powerful personal, cultural, community and family story. It has direct relevance to our lives.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
I'd just like to say, I hope you found our opening show program informative, fascinating. I found it fascinating. And this is our aim. Our aim is to bring you encounters with fascinating, interesting people with something to give you as opposed to what we normally see on television. I don't mean that to sound controversial in any way. I'm not trying to diss anybody in any way. I'm just saying that there's a space for true encounters with extraordinary people. I hopefully have just brought you one of those, and I hope to bring you Guru Di Kirpa De Naal a lot more. So all from me. Thank you again, Jagdeesh Dhillon and GS Atwal myself. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.